Module 1, Part 4. In fourth part of the Module 1, we will be studying about result of research, case study of culture of health, case of Malaita, and case study of Gram Sabha. In the previous part, we studied empowerment evaluation and participatory action research. So the result of the research which can be carried out with different strategies is innovation in the form of innovative practices or innovative goods and services that come as an output of the research. So ultimately, any problem if it's to be resorted, it can come with some policy, innovative policy to deal with that particular problem, that how things can be looked upon and what can be the probable solutions and what can be the probable actions by different community members. At the same time, if it is required that there has to be some tangible output which can be developed in order to help the community to address their needs, that is the innovative goods or innovative services that can come into existence. Now, there's a case which I have got for your understanding to practically understand exactly how different research strategies work. A case of developing a culture of health. Why I have brought this case is to understand how important the health is. You might have heard a famous saying about health, that health is wealth. So, in order to have a better health, we need to develop a culture of health, which says the healthy lifestyle, health talks about healthy environment, healthy food habits, and lot much which can improve the health habits of the individual. So contributors of this particular Culture of Health series discuss the challenges and opportunities in rural and urban areas, neighborhoods, jails, schools and businesses, where they can look upon how health can be brought as a culture, how health can be determined as a culture. So different opportunities and challenges are identified. They look at different risks posed by the climate change. They look at the innovative practices which are brought in the different parts of the world so that the problems of health can be resorted to. They also identify the role of media in changing the thought process of how people should think about health. We are very clear about this, that unless we are told, we are not able to understand the importance of that particular thing. So the role of media is very important to talk about that health is important, and it is important that we can develop the culture of health. So what can be, they have identified the challenges, the risks of different community people about the health. Now they have to work about that how health can be made as a culture. They need to conduct different awareness programs. They need to involve the community members in a team so that the people in the community can look upon health as a culture. They would also look at the public and private decision making so that they can help to develop a healthy policy, healthy lifestyles by involving people of the community to implement viable solutions to different health problems. So how does it actually it works? It works through the participation of different agents of the community, different agents in the form of community members, in the form of organizations, representatives, in the form of researchers, academic researchers, university researchers. All of them need to come and talk about a particular problem, and all the more how that can be resorted with a solution is helping the people to understand that what is important right now, to talk about what kind of problem they need to work on. So I have got some more examples where the research by Lando and Atwood in 2015, they researched on certain areas of Solomon Islands, that is Malaita, and they found that people were facing problems related to the decreased income from the farming fisheries in aquatic agricultures. They also found that people are having a very low subsistence level of livelihoods, and the quality of marine life and land size were also decreasing. So what solutions can be propose to these people, though these are the specialized people who were working with a given set of their knowledge and their techniques. They were able to manage somehow, but the problems were not improving. The solutions were needed. So different agencies from the community, as in the form of organization representatives, in the form of researchers, help them how the problems can be addressed. They worked for getting the non-government organizations together and universities which provided the technical support for implementing the research methodologies. They involve the community members to understand how important the research on that particular problem is. Help them to understand that they should transmit this problem, understanding of the problem with the other members of the community and involve them for the action research which they can do that. So I have got another case for your understanding which showcase that how research can help the different communities to solve different levels of the problems. So I've got another case which shows the importance of community engaged research. This is a case of Gram Sabha which demonstrate how disasters can be managed with the help of community engagement. Now, Gram Sabha includes Panchayati Raj institution as a body, as a statutory body, which is elected by people, where people of the ward and the community come together and hold responsible the electorals as responsible for any of the acts. This body ensures facilitation of solutions to different problems where people come together, bring about their problems, help themselves with the solutions, and this body helps them to execute the solutions. Basically, if you would understand how it is important, PRIs work with people and people work with PRIs. PRI help the people with resources so that the problems can be solved, and people of the community or community members come together and bring the problems to the PRIs which are to be resolved. So the functioning is actually uh, dependent on each other. So PRIs play a crucial role at the grassroots level by connecting the people and the community. They can reduce the impact of catastrophe on individuals living in vulnerable areas, and they can lead the community members in a variety of ways and provide them with the tools and resources which they can use in order to help their problems solved. So PRIs here presume a leadership role which can through which they can help the community members to help themselves. So how it works basically, disaster management, in order to mitigate the risks of the disasters, in order to mitigate the impact of the disasters. Understanding about the disaster is important. So how the understanding of disaster can be done? It is by looking at the past disaster which has happened. That means we have to talk about pre-disaster and post-disaster management. For this particular phenomena, we need to understand what past disasters had been, what kind of impact they have levied on the people at large. So, understanding the past disaster, talk about some points like understanding the hazard in the village, understanding the type of hazard in the village, vulnerability in the village, at what is the extent and who are the vulnerable sections of the society or the village where the disaster can have the highest impact, how the awareness can be generated related to that hazard or that event which can lead to disaster in that particular area, what was the role of individuals, what was the role of community people or community members, and what was the role of panchayat in reducing the risks originating from the disaster, what was the early preparation of managing that disaster, that what actions were taken earlier in order to have that disaster mitigated or
avoid it? What was the response of the community member, and how exactly all the things was put into place, and how what was the output of that particular process? And finally, planning of how things can move in future with a particular set of an hazard which can appear as a disaster. So for understanding where the research is required at this level of disaster management by Gram Sabha, they need to work on the past data, that is descriptives of the hazards, what has happened earlier. If it is a famine, what kind of famine it was, why that famine came into existence, what were the reasons to that famine, what factors led to that famine, and what were the most vulnerable areas where the famine had an highest impact? What was the role of individuals and communities so that they could have avoided the famine? And what was the response of the people? I mean, were they working as a community, or they were looking at their individual needs? So all these parameters would have a data created on the basis of the past disaster. And looking at this data, similar kinds of disasters can be forecasted or can be mitigated with certain actions on these parameters. So understanding of what kind of a disaster can appear requires research, and research which is a community engaged research.
So, in this part, we studied about result of research, case study of culture of health, case of Malaita, and case study of Gram Sabha. In the next part, we will study about challenges in community engaged research and ethical code of conduct for research.
Thank you.